of the Soul with me, Shakti Botatsi, your host. Do you ever feel overwhelmed by your daily life as if something inside you is trying to get your attention? As an international teacher, shaman, and energy healer, I will bring the tools of a lifetime to guide you to explore how to live consciously, awaken your innate wisdom, integrating the design, development, and emergence of your divine blueprint. Each episode blends grounded conversation with multidimensional insight, guiding you to release old patterns, align with your higher intelligence, and live awake, aware, and fully present. The Soul Wisdom Project with me, Shakti Botatsi, starts now. Welcome once again. It's wonderful to be here live on this day. I don't know about you, but I'm coming to you from Oregon and it's cold but sunny, which is very welcome in this winter day. And I am welcoming you today for this episode about embracing the mess, navigating spirituality in everyday life. As always, if this conversation resonates with you, you can find my work, writings, ways to explore these themes more deeply on my website at www.theawakenedpath.com. Let's dive right in. And this topic is very near and dear to my heart because it's a real thing. It's about embracing the mess that we are. No matter in what journey we are, spiritual or very 3D, life is always on session. I love this phrase that a coach I had like 10 years ago used to say all the time. And it is so true, isn't it? So, when life is on session, no matter where you're headed, what you're trying to do, and no matter how high is the goal, the scope of what you're trying to do, it gets messy. And it's really interesting how, when you're on a real spiritual path, you still need to live very much what's happening in your daily life. And this is a key point we'll explore a little bit more in a moment. Because the emotional reality that we're confronted with the news, with what happens to our loved ones, with our sons or daughters, teenagers, little kids, newborns, older parents, husbands, beloveds, whatever, right? That's always happening. And trauma lives right there. So, whatever we've had in our lives growing up, whatever has left us a little bit extra sensitive and in certain aspects of our lives will keep showing up for us to confront it head on, deal with it, and be free from it. But meanwhile, it gets messy. And one thing that I did for many years as a technique that helped me a little bit, but in the end it didn't do the job, is this thing about bypassing the problems. It's called spiritual bypass. So avoiding the 3D world and the environment world leads to that, to spiritual bypassing. It's an escape that can look like blissfulness, but it reality will come and eventually hit you smack on your face. So the bypassing, it's probably a temporary solution if you need to stop the bleeding and take a breath. And seemingly you are all bliss. But the truth is that the way to be spiritual in a world like the one we're confronting today is very different than being in a blissful state all the time. It's truly about embracing all of that mess, is about meeting what's in front of us in this three-dimensional reality, which is full and filled with contrasts, and understanding that to embrace all of that is actually the door that opens deeper healing, deeper meaning, fulfillment, and bliss, which is where we're heading, what we're looking for. Buddha, Master Buddha, more than 2,500 years ago, used to say that desires lead to enlightenment. Actually, he used to say our desires are what will lead us to our enlightenment, because he explained that our earthly desires for even more flashy things, for a better car, for a nicer vacation, for more whatever, or for success in a career, in a job, or having a family filled with kids, is that is your desire, is what puts you in a path of figuring out this game called life so that you can achieve that which you're desiring. And in so doing, you confront this mess and go step by step into that healing and eventually, like Buddha said, into enlightenment, which is the ultimate, right? The ultimate. We don't say this all the time. We don't go about saying, oh, I want to be enlightened. People would think we're cuckoo. But the truth is that the ultimate goal of life is to experience God within, or become one with source and creator and the universe, and have that thing that is called the self-realization of God. This is it, really. When we achieve that state of being is when everything else disappears, because we've cracked the code, and we figured out the illusion all the way through. Meanwhile, in this beautiful game called life, the illusion shows up for us with our issues about money, for example, because in the modern world, what used to be a mammoth or a lion running after you and trying to catch you is money. In today's day and age, it's money the issue. Work, trouble at work, trouble with the people I work with my boss, with the actual work per se. I don't like it anymore. It doesn't fulfill me anymore. My life feels flat. I feel like I'm in a treadmill that is never ending, like a hamster wheel. And what's the point? Just to get to the end of the month and get a stipend and then start all over again. And where is this leading me? Nowhere, because it's all the same, and I can't fathom seeing myself in the same position in 5 years, in 10 years, in 1 year, whatever it is. Those are the messy aspects of this. In relationships, we love somebody, we love our friends, and when we least expect it, whatever is happening in our friend's life, for example, appears in ours like something that feels like a rejection, like an abandonment, like something that for some reason touches our trauma and hits us in the wrong place and makes us feel uncomfortable, in pain, constricted, not worthy of the love of our friends, or whatever that is. And potentially, and 99% of the times, remember this, it has nothing to do with you, and it has everything to do with whatever is happening in your friend's life. This happens with our beloveds. Same thing. They might have had a bad day at work, they get home, and poof, things are not okay, and you have no idea what happened. Except that when you are in a close, tight-knit relationship like you would be with a beloved, it probably, if you have fairly, if you've honed down your communication skills, you probably can get to the bottom of the issue with a lot more speediness and ease. And sometimes with a friend or a coworker or a relationship that's not that intimate, it's a little bit more edgy, because we don't want to create more of that uncomfortableness, and yet we want to address it. So that's that. Then the other things in which this shows up is in health. Health, our bodies. We spoke about this. We spoke a lot about this in episode 1. If you haven't watched it or listened to it in any podcast platform or in the TTN network or on my website or in YouTube. You can find it everywhere. Just go look for Soul Wisdom Project and make sure you watch, you listen. Embodiment. When our soul is living fully within our bodies, we activate a deeper relationship with our bodies by which when we go out of alignment, our bodies speak to us with lack of ease, dis-ease. And when that happens, life gets messy. And again, we'll talk about how we can confront these things, different ways of doing it. Messiness could be about home. We may be feeling a little bit out of whack, a little bit um, lost in our path of what we're meant to do, what we're here for, and our home, our room, our home, depending upon how big is the space in which we live, can become really crowded. Some people go into hoarding mode when this uncertainty pops up in their lives. Some people go into complete explosion mode. And everything is lying everywhere on the furniture, on the floor, on the ground, on the everywhere, on the hamper, hanging out, wherever. And when we have an an area where we live, our home, or even just one room in our home where we spend time that is messy, crowded, cluttered, it gets messy inside. That's just the outside, is just a reflection of the inside, and it's like a a feedback loop that because it's that way outside, it keeps us stuck into what we want to do. And because we are in this way inside, we can't quite figure out how to fix the situation. So we'll address that. Time. How about when there is never time to do what we love to do, and when we are overwhelmed or overpassed by tasks that are duty filled, there musts, there shoulds, and there's apparently never time to do what you actually love to do, or even just lay back and do nothing, because sometimes that is needed too, to stop the hamster wheel and get off, stop the train and get want to get down, which ties into where we have lack of time, we have too many responsibilities, and the systems that exist in our lives aren't working. Can you relate to this? I would love to hear from you. If you are watching live, to send me a message. If you are watching later on, just leave me a message. Um, Share with me. I really would like to know how this is happening in your life. And remember that whatever is happening in your life is happening for you. And also remember that if you are listening to this podcast or you are watching this podcast today, it's not a coincidence, because as life is happening for you, clearly you needed to hear this. And potentially there's a little golden nugget hidden in today's conversation that will help you embrace the mess, like I was saying. But in embracing the mess, there's the navigating and figuring it out so that we can truly get to that bliss regardless of what's happening in our lives. And herein lies the key point. So I'm going to repeat it. It's about embracing the mess and navigating it in a way that, regardless of what's happening in our lives, we do feel the bliss. We do connect with the joy inside. We can understand that life is being shown to us one step at a time And that when we can get to that space of knowing what is that next best step that we need to do, we can begin unraveling whatever it is that it's in front of us. And I want to share with you that bypassing what I was speaking about a little bit earlier doesn't look like bad spirituality. It looks like you're coping. And believe me, I did it a lot, and I didn't know I was doing it. It probably was when I was 40, in my 40s, and so much was happening in my life. I was at 42, I am about to be 62, just so that you have a frame of reference. At 42, I was divorcing from the father of my children. They were tiny. I mean, my youngest was 5 and the eldest was 8. We were living in Italy. My family is not from Italy. My mom is in Argentina, even though she was born in Italy, but she's 100 years plus. My siblings live far away. And basically, we were living in Tuscany, and I was alone. Like, I didn't have family to support me. I was the sole breadwinner, and here I was with two tiny kids. Well, they weren't tiny, but they were little. They depended big time on me. And I was separating in a very messy separation. And I really needed time to have a moment for myself. And meditation was that thing. I started meditating a lot, and I would get up really early in the morning, sometimes at 4 in the morning, so I could have 2, 3 hours of meditation, which was compounded. It was silent meditation, it was chanting meditation, it was yoga poses, it was many, many different things. And it helped me for a while. And it helped me confront day by day. However, that wasn't helping me address the issues that were in front of my life. And then I would go to courses to learn energy healing and to learn cellular memory release and to learn a lot of amazing things. And I didn't realize that I was bypassing, I was staying in what's known as the upper energy centers, the heart, the throat, the third eye, the crown, which was amazing. And I was completely disconnected from my body, my feeling, who I was in the world, my ability of saying yes when I meant yes, no when I meant no, of being grounded in the here and now. It was really interesting. So, for example, I want to give you a few hints on how you can recognize if this is something that's happening for you, this common bypass patterns, so that you can understand it's like, whoops, I'm doing that too much. It's okay to do it here and there on a weekend. You need time out and fine. But if this is all the time, so for example, this is one typical one is staying high vibe while avoiding hard conversations. So with the excuse that, no, I don't want to be brought down by your bad vibe or by lower frequency or your bad mood or whatever, you fakely stay in this high vibe, avoiding looking at what really needs to be handled. So you avoid to look at the finances that are not working, or the job that's not working, or the relationship, like in my explanation, in my share. And so one typical one is using meditation or ritual to avoid action. So I was doing 2, 3 hours of meditation in the morning, but the truth is that I was frozen in place. I was paralyzed. I didn't know which way to go. I didn't know if I had the courage to say I want a divorce because I was so scared about how I would handle that situation if I went that route. But at the same time, I couldn't stand being in the situation I was. Life was so painful. And there was a lot of anger and My ex was really aggressive and very manipulative emotionally, and I fell for it over and over. So that's exactly what I did. Used meditation, ritual, all this beautiful time. Oh, wonderful. But it took me more than a year to actually take action when that's what was really going to move the wheel and change the situation and begin to bring solutions. Another thing is to over identify with a spiritual identity. And again, you are identifying with this beautiful spiritual person, and in the spiritual realm with your spiritual friends, you're amazing. But then you're unable to take that into your home, into your friends, into your abundance, into your body. So you are giving it all to your spiritual life, but you're neglecting the body, the home, the money, the relationships. And that's because that's where the mess is. Or, for example, there's a lot of skits and sketches about this, is about using spiritual language to anesthetize emotion. And so we use all these paraphrasing words about I really feel you. I can see how this is affecting you. And you keep going with phrases like that instead of saying, hey, I'm sorry, I hurt you. I shouldn't have done that. You're right. And I did wrong, or whatever it is that happened. And all of these things are part of us humans. So bypassing spiritually is none other than one more coping mechanism for survival. That's why I'm going to give you some solutions, but before going there, I want to make sure that if any of the things I was sharing touch you, or you feel that they are true in your life or present in your life, that first of all, you give yourself compassion, that you give yourself love and understanding, just like you would to a friend, just like you would to a loving person, because if any of these things are happening, are because there is pain that may be too big for you to confront in this very now moment. And I hope this conversation today gives you courage and gives you an impetus for you to lean into that discomfort so that you can move through it and out of it and begin being able to take a little bit of action instead of bypassing whatever needs to be addressed. Because, like I was saying, it is on this dimension, which is the earth dimension, this real three-dimensional life where the daily friction shows up for us. And also, the beauty is that it's the exact place where we can have healing and integration and growth. And that's why we're here, because we signed on the dotted line to come down into this family, this community, this country, this body, and all the relationships and all of it that's in your life. You chose, you co-created. And so to identify with clarity what may be happening for you, I want to offer you one question to ask that is free of emotional connotations or um, cues that will derail the truth and neutrality of your answer. So here's what you can ask yourself. In my daily life right now, what is the biggest challenge in front of me? And my invitation is for you to keep this simple. The answer is simple. And if there's 10 things that are coming at you, and sometimes there are, and it's like in that when I was 42, like I was saying, it took me years to clean my mess, by the way. And the mess was all over the place. It was relationships. I was getting very sick. It was about abundance. It was it was all over the place. And so do not choose all 10, okay? Choose the one challenge. If you can't figure out which is the biggest one, just write them all down, but then ask again and figure out what is the next best step for you to take. For example, I'm going to give you a few examples of great entry points so that you can begin pulling the thread from there. These are not problems to fix, okay? We're talking about really looking at our lives with love, with compassion, and with the connection inside of your gut of what is your deepest desire. Because the other thing that happens when we are in this messy part of our lives, and by the way, always, but particularly messy, whatever it is that you want to confront and deal with, is that we feel or think that we are wrong in any ways, that we have some guilt, we have some shame around it. We don't tell people. That's the other thing that we isolate ourselves because we're ashamed to share what is going on for us. And these things imply for us inside that we must fix ourselves, fix the situation. And it's not about fixing, and it's not about being wrong, and it's not about being inadequate, and it's not, it is about embracing. It's about saying, okay, here I am. This is this now moment. All of this is in front of me. Somehow, with some low level of awareness and consciousness, I co-created this moment of my life. I made choices and I took actions where, for example, in my case, I chose to override a lot of red flags. Trust me on this one. Probably that happened to you too. We tend to override the red flags. Don't see this. Keep going. Everything is wonderful. Red flag. Keep going. Everything is wonderful until the mess is so big we cannot keep avoiding it. So then we resort to spiritual bypass, and when that isn't even enough, then this is where I want to tell you how it may be showing up in your life. For example, you may have a lot of clutter and disorganization in your physical environment. It could be just your office, your desk, it could be your home, it could be your paperwork, it could be the intangible aspects of how you're set up financially. Do you have a will? You don't have a will, you're not looking at that thing, your digital space, whatever it is that's clutter in your life. When there is clutter, especially in your physical environment where you are, if you go to sleep in a room that is super in disorder, your sleep is not going to be deeply restful because clothes, things have energy. And even in a closet where you may like pile everything inside and close the door of that closet and say, good, the room is super tidy, all that disorganization inside the closet is going to influence you because the energy is felt through the door of the closet. And you actually know in the back of your mind that there's a mess over there that you just piled in there, physically trying to do what you were doing emotionally, which was, or in your mind, which was, I'm not going to look at it and believe it's not there. But your subconscious and your whole being actually knows it's there. This is a great entry point to clean, declutter, reorganize, get rid of stuff. It is so rewarding and it will help you shift energetically so much that you will be relieved and you will feel so much lighter to then take the next step. And I know what you may be saying. You may be saying, but I don't know where to start. My house is a mess, or my office is a mess, or my clothes are a mess, or whatever it is. My car, my gosh, people, cars. So many people put all the trash in the cars, right? If you have kids and the kids dump all kinds of stuff on the floor, cars, clean the car, clean the inside of the car, throw the trash away. It's incredible. So if you say, I don't know where to start, just like I said, one step at a time, start with one thing. What is it best? Your desk? What is it best? You have too many books, too many books? Okay, grab them all, choose the ones that really are dear to your heart, put all the others in a box, go donate to the library. You have clothes, clothes. There's so many, you don't know even where to put them. They're coming out of the closet. Dump them all on your bed. That's not mine, by the way. That's Marie Marie Kondo. She's amazing. She has this system called the KonMari method. You can look at her book. I used her method so many times in my life, changing my life, Marie Kondo. And then pick what still gives you joy. Remember, the question is, does this still give me joy? And if it doesn't, send it to a thrift store, Goodwill, or trash if it's not reusable, and keep only those things that are still giving you that spark of joy that you know that you may reuse because that joy is in there. And again, decluttering closets. The kitchen. Oh my goodness, the kitchen is another one of those places where keep all kinds of old containers without lids, lids that have broken, burnt, twisted. Dump all of that away. Today you can buy containers for the kitchen for like $2, $3. It's like insane how available all these things have become. So old kitchen stuff that is disgusting and sticky, throw that away. You get the point. Okay. So I'm going to move on to another one. But the thing is that clutter, the reason why I'm making such a point about clutter is because it is very common, very common. So if this is you, again, don't say, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Just go, okay, that's a great idea. Let's take one action. One action will begin to shift things for you. Another one that's huge is money patterns that repeat despite awareness. And I think probably, I don't know, 90% of society is in there. And for sure, I've been there for years and years and years. You make you make goals. It doesn't matter if you, and by the way, it doesn't matter in what financial range you are unless you're destitute and homeless, of course, or really pure poor. But no matter where you are, this is a reality. You make 10, you spend 11. You make 100, you spend 101. This is a cycle. It happens to everybody. And part of that is a lack of boundaries with ourselves. We make a decision, I'm going to put this much apart, and then you don't hold it. You do it a few months and then you don't do it. The other thing with money is that money loves order. So if you are not tracking your money, you're not tracking your expenses, you're not tracking your income and your expenses, and you're not keeping it tidy, and you don't know really what's happening month in, month out, and you have a bunch of receipts in a drawer, and you're going to deal with that later, etc., etc. A, money won't flow with ease because money likes order. And the other thing that could be in there is that, and watch, ask yourself if this is the case for you. There's a deep trauma of discomfort with receiving or charging for your services if you are self-employed. What happens here is that we are, for the most part, when we have trauma, and a lot of us on earth, a lot of us on earth have the trauma of not feeling good enough and not feeling that we are worthy enough. And again, tune in. Is this you? Is this you even tiny bit? because there's layers of this, and you may have done a lot of work, and at the very tiny bottom, there's still one layer of doubt that is influencing your life. And so you are used to give a lot because giving is rewarding. Don't we all love to give when we give a gift? Don't we enjoy giving? Sometimes it's almost more fun to give the gift and watch the other person enjoying the gift, particularly if you give with love and you know that you're giving gifts the other person loves. There's a lot of people that don't like and don't know how to give gifts because other people are the other way. Me. They don't want to give, but both sides are creating a blockage in the flow of coming and going of money. Money has a breath, it comes and it goes. And it's just like when you inhale, if I hold it and hold it and hold it, and now I have to exhale. You cannot keep a breath. You're going to die, right? And the same is meant with money. Of course, you will put money apart for emergencies, for savings, for vacations, for things. Of course, you know all those things. This is not a financial conversation. This is about the messiness in life and what does that mean for our spiritual life. So, from a spiritual standpoint, when we have a difficulty in giving or a difficulty in receiving, that will probably show up also in our money affairs. And our money affairs may show with scarcity, may show with mostly with scarcity, with the lack of flow of the money we need. And again, it doesn't matter how big is the amount of money that we have, it's still an issue for us. I want to check in with you. One moment. How are you doing? Are you all right? Because this conversation is intense. I know that when I say these things may resonate with some of you more than with others, and there's like an uncomfortableness about it because it's a resonation. It's resonating. I just invented that word. It's resonating energetically with what is happening for you. So hang in there because in one moment, very shortly, I'm going to tell you how to open up more in your lives so that you can be more into your spiritual awakening, rejoice in it, and be fully embracing the mess. And I'm giving you some tips as I go already, as you can tell. So the next one is the avoidance of concrete actions. I kind of touched on this several times because it permeates all the issues, but especially when we're looking at practical things. Should you remove all the subscriptions or which subscriptions you should remove? Should you make phone calls, all types from work to get a new insurance, to get a medical appointment, whatever that is, you're postponing calls. I'll do it later. I'll do it tomorrow. Paperwork. Do I need to file things, organize things, whatever it is? Systems, decisions, conversations that keep life on hold. Avoidance of concrete actions, avoidance of grabbing the bull by the horns. Start working out, start going for a walk, start eating differently, start telling your loved ones that you love them. Start doing that project that you so wanted to do your whole life. You want to do this. Yes, I'll do it later. Do it now. Life is now. And if you make mistakes, no big deal. You course correct and you do it. And then you make another mistake or you fall flat on your face. So you get up and you try again and you live life because life is now. And the last aspect of all of this that I've mentioned also here and there is how when this messiness happens, what's happening really is that our self-worth and our belief that we are meant to be loved is tested in all real world interactions. I betcha that you either feel invisible or have felt invisible sometime. You have felt not worthy enough or whatever. you have felt people are not respecting you or are not taking you seriously or somehow overworked or somehow taken for granted, somehow, somewhere, sometime in your life, any of these things will have shown up for you or are there now in some degree because as humans, holding boundaries is not as easy because of our trauma and because it plays on the two key core pain points of humans, which is the ability to feel that they deserve to be loved and the ability that they feel they're worthy just because they're alive. And all the other things we're talking about today have to do with how that plays out in life. Take a breath. I'm going to bring you some solutions very soon. And take a sip of water or tea or cacao or coffee or whatever it is. Actually, I'm going to take one too to create a moment to breathe and have everything that I've just said land with ease. Because, like I said earlier, nothing about this is making you wrong. And I know that many of you may be feeling maybe shame or guilt or I should have, woulda, whatever. Drop all of that, not serving you. And by the way, go onto my website, The Awaken Path, Awaken, Awaken path.com, because there's a couple of meditations you can download for free there. There's one in particular called the Rainbow Meditation. Go under the Gifts tab and download it because that meditation is perfect to help you get on every day into alignment so that you can start your day and begin taking these next steps. So remember to go there, theawakenpath.com under gifts. There's many gifts there, but the rainbow meditation is probably the one you will want for this topic. Again, remember, you are here. It's the Earth School. You chose your family, you chose the culture you're on, all of that has created part of who you are. Yes, you've lived through the conditioning of your parents as you were growing up, and it's just normal that any and all and many of all the things I mentioned are part of your life, particularly in this moment. Because what I haven't mentioned, and I just want to like drop it for a moment as part of the context, is that beyond all the things that I've addressed, we have to do with your area of control. And that's why I've addressed those things, because those things you can do something about it. There's all the other stuff that happens in the world, that it's outside the area in which we can do something about it, like what's happening in politics, the wars going on, whatever is happening with people in power, all the things that are happening in companies, corporations you may be working in, but they're out of your control. You can't do nothing about that. You can choose how to react to that, but you cannot do something like declutter your closet. But all of that is also happening. So here's the thing. You want to ask yourself questions. So, sorry, let me preface this. In order to embrace the mess and in order to really find solutions and understand what is that next best step for you, because you may have many of the things I mentioned and you're like, again, where do I start? Well, here's what I'm giving you so you know where you can start. You can start without judgment. You can start asking yourself questions that don't load judgment into the questions you ask yourself. You ask questions that create space for truth to surface. So you make sure, you, like sometime after you've listened to this call or podcast or you watched it in the replay, you create some time, you light a candle, you create some ritual space that is silent, beautiful, just for you. And if you have a messy desk, just move the paperwork aside and put a little bit, two crystals there, a candle, grab your journal, and do this for a moment so that you gain clarity. You take a moment for yourself and you go in, like I was saying, without judgment, creating that space for truth to surface, and you inquire on a very earthly, dimensional way. You say, for example, what do I know about this now? This could be my clutter. This could be my money problems. This could be my relationship issues. It could be the work I'm unhappy with. Whatever that is, you set up what is it you're wanting to clear and understand what is your next best step. So you also want to know what would be different if this, whatever this is, was resolved. It's important to have that outcome clear for you. I was having a conversation with a client just last week, and this client was going on and on and on about some trouble they were having in relationships. And at one point, I asked, I said, well, how would you like this to be resolved? How would things be different if this were resolved? And this person was struck and 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 she was saying, I don't know. And she realized she was so stuck in the pain of what was happening that she actually didn't have a clear idea of how she desired her life to be, how she wished for that relationship to be. So make sure that you understand what would be different if this, whatever that is, was resolved. Simple example, what would be different if I uncluttered my whole life and gave away what's no longer helping me? You know, one thing that would be different for sure, I guarantee, is that you would feel so much lighter, that you would feel so much more filled with life force. And most importantly and intangibly, you will have made room for the new energy, the new relationship, the new opportunity, the new things to come into your life. Because while you're hoarding the old things, there is no room for more to come in. So the universe won't bring you more of whatever it is that you want because it's full. Where is the universe going to put it? Years and years and years ago, I remember when all that conversation about manifestation began appearing in this world, when people began talking about manifestation. A very simple example was if you want a partner, a loving partner, and you're single, well, then begin clearing half of the closet for your beloved, sleep on one side of the bed, make sure you have a car space for your beloved, and begin living life as if your beloved were already there. I love that. Such a great example of what we're talking about. What would be different if this was resolved? Here's a super deep one for you. Let's say that you have identified in all that you're saying, in all the things I've said today, that there's a narrative going on in your mind. There's someone speaking inside. Make sure you're clear about whose voice that is and ask that specific question. Whose voice is this? We've internalized the voice of our mother, the voice of our father, the voice of our grandma. Sometimes we're not raised by a parent, we're raised by the grandma taking care of us. Whoever's voice that is, identify that and clearly state, this is not my voice, and change that narrative. Literally write a sentence that is the opposite of whatever narrative is hurting you. And the most beautiful question that I love, because beyond everything that I said when I'm talking about embracing the messiness, I'm saying, beloved listener, whoever you are on the other side of this video camera, ask yourself, what is mine to do today on earth? Because you are here for a reason that is so much bigger than all of the messy little things we've been speaking about today. But all of these things that we mentioned today are holding you back from being that beautiful, colorful, unique person that you are. And so embrace the mess. Ask yourself for environment and clutter. What is one small cleaning action that I can do today? If for you it's more about money and self-worth, what is one honest pricing or boundary action you can place for yourself? A beautiful one is take a week without buying anything at all. Eat what you have in your fridge. Eat what you have in your pantry. If you want to buy things online, hold on. Don't do it the minute you get the impulse. Hold for a week. Write it down on a paper and ask yourself, do I still want this when the week has gone by? One method I learned that I love about money boundaries is when I desire something, something comes to me. Let's say I want a new phone, something big or something smaller. I want a new tablet, or I want a deck of oracle cards, or I want a new pair of slippers. I mean, it doesn't have to be big or complicated. I have a list and I write it down. And then I wait for a week, 10 days, and then I go to the list and say, do I still want the slippers? Yeah, I do. In fact, yesterday I had to buy slippers because I had no more slippers. And you get it. And that is amazing. It stops you from a lot of that impulse buying. So again, one honest boundary you can put in place. What honest pricing or boundary action regarding money, self-worth, etc. Regarding the I'll do it later, what's that one call you can do today, that one email you can do today, or that one task that you are normally pushing and rewriting in your to-do list of tomorrow or next week over and over? Just go do it, or just get it out of the list. If it's not important and it's not urgent and it won't be done, just remove it from the list. Just drop it. Just acknowledge you're not going to be doing that. Because that's the other thing that happens, is that we keep putting things forward. But remember, there's urgent things and there's important things. There's this beautiful matrix about non-important, urgent and non-urgent, actually non-urgent, urgent, non-important and important. A lot of things fall in the quadrant of non-urgent, non-important, and you keep dragging those along, stopping you because energetically it's heavy, but they'll never get done. So make sure you are clear if what you're doing is urgent and non-important. You can drop those two most likely. Why is it urgent? Is it really urgent? Check that in. You want to do urgent and important, and you want to do important and not urgent. Make sure you prioritize those big boulders in your life. What are the big things that you really want to place in your life? And do that. Remember, and that's why I keep saying to download that rainbow meditation from my website, theawakenedpath.com, because when spirit, body, mind are aligned, and heart, sorry, spirit, body, heart, mind are aligned. When you are aligned, then you are able to listen more clearly and understand more clearly what is it you're feeling, what is it that is a soul stirring action, like stir, 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 stir your soul, right? What is something that's moving you deeply that you might really want to take on? When you're out of alignment, that's when all the things we spoke about today happen. And alignment is key to embrace and allow the most beautiful version of yourself to manifest, to be able to be real. Because how do you live the most beautiful version of yourself? And by the way, we need you. The world needs you. You do that aligning and taking one step. And then once you have that step, you will see a little bit further and you take the next step. And that's why I was saying to you today, I won't give you the big solution, but if I can give you the entry point, which is what we were talking about today, as you move through that entry point, you will realize that the next action is clear. And potentially, as you take one, two small, three small next actions, suddenly a larger part of the path is clear for you. Therefore, remember, be clear about what is the big challenge. And like I said, don't grab 10. If you have 10, write them all down, but then choose one. Ask 2 or 3 clean questions. I gave you several, and take one grounded step. That simple. That simple. Sometimes we think that, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Where do I go with all of this? Simple. And believe me, simple is important because part of what we do is that we make it so complicated that then again we freeze. It's so complicated. It's such a big mountain to escalate that we can't. One step at a time, here now. Yep. Cool, huh? I really hope this episode brings you clarity, brings you an ability to transform your life because this is what the Soul Wisdom Project is about. It is about really owning that soul wisdom and applying it in your life in a way that your life begins to transform in a way that when you look back a couple of months from now, you won't recognize where you were because you haven't walked in a straight line forward or run in a straight line forward. You may have leapt in a spiral way upwards and forward to such an extent that you can't even remember how you got from there to here. But you do this through using your soul wisdom, which is what I've shared with you today, how to connect with your soul wisdom. I invite you to take some time to do some quiet exploration with the tools that I shared with you today. And by all means, mark your calendars for next live event on February 17th because it's going to be an insane, amazing, energetic day with solar eclipses, the new year of the horse of fire coming on. And it doesn't matter if you miss that specific day because the energetic will last quite a while, but you may want to be here live. I'm going to have a special guest, Darieth Chisholm, and you can learn more about her on the episode description that's already live. And remember, go to my website, theawakenedpath.com. Look for all the goodies that can help you, meditations, handouts about how to live your soul wisdom project, about how to live an embodied life, about how to create health in your body. There's so many resources there about how to expand your channel and your ability to talk to your guides. There's another meditation. Go there, use the resources. Buy my book. Many have told me that my book, Remembering Her, a Soul Embodiment, uh, I forget the title of my book. This is insane. A Soul Embodiment Journey. It's over there. You can see it. It's that pink and purple. Buy my book. Many people are telling me that they're using the book almost like a manual. It's amazing, they're saying. Read the testimonials. So many tools. I'm here to help you and to support you. I love you. I'm so grateful for you listening. And until next time, many blessings. Thank you for joining me, Shakti Botazzi, on the Soul Wisdom Project, remembering the living blueprint of the soul. Tune in every first and third Tuesday each month at 9 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Continue your journey of conscious embodiment, integrating the design, development, and emergence of your divine blueprint. Deepen your exploration through my book, Remembering Her, A Soul Embodiment Journey, and discover mentoring and retreats at theawakenedpath.com. Healing is possible. Your journey is sacred design in motion. To put overwhelm in your past, contact me at www.theawakenedpath.com. Stay awake, stay aligned, and keep living your soul's wisdom. See you next time.
Tune in each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio to the Pleasure Movement, an innovative approach to improving your relationship, increasing intimacy, and having better sex. Hi, I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Dan. We provide a safe, non-judgmental space for getting answers to your difficult, perhaps embarrassing, or vulnerable questions.
Visit pleasuremovement.com. That's Pleasure Movement.
You ever feel it? That whisper just beneath the surface? A deeper part of you ready to rise? At Aligned Energy, we don't just inspire.
What if justice wasn't just about systems, but about the soul? Welcome to the Spiritual Justice Show with me, Eric S. Lee. You've heard me say it before. For too long, we thought restorative justice alone could save us. But repairing harm without changing systems doesn't end the cycle. Social justice fights for equity, but without spirit, the work becomes a grind. Transformative justice seeks culture change, but without compassion, it struggles to hold. Spiritual justice completes the circle. It heals the heart while changing the system. It restores dignity while shifting culture. It brings spirit back into justice. Each week, I'll bring together leaders, healers, and change makers to explore a new vision of justice. Restorative, transformative, and deeply spiritual. And people like you, spiritual justice warriors who choose courage, compassion, and creativity in action. Here we are. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I am really excited about the show today. I am going off on my own. Thank you, Dr. Pat. We've got a wonderful guest today, and let me talk about this. In this episode of the Spiritual Justice Show, we are honored to welcome DeAndre Smith, CEO of When the Leaves Restorative Consulting, a visionary leader in restorative justice whose work centers healing, accountability, and liberation as pathways to lasting community transformation. DeAndre I'm cooked on spiritual justice. Sorry, DeAndre. DeAndre is a restorative justice practitioner, educator, and community leader who is deeply committed to building spaces rooted in belonging, connection, and accountability. He currently serves as the acting director of Belonging and Connection and previously worked as assistant director of restorative justice for the School District of Philadelphia, where he supported district-wide implementation, helped lead restorative justice research in schools, and contributed to the publication of 2 restorative justice guidebooks. DeAndre grew up in the DMV, DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, raised by young parents alongside his grandmother, an experience that shaped how he thinks about community, care, and shared responsibility. His work is grounded in equity literacy, cultural literacy, and racial literacy. And he's especially focused on pushing conversations beyond traditional DEI towards practices rooted in liberation, healing, and real accountability. Outside of work, DeAndre is a husband, a father of two, football coach. DeAndre, we'll talk about Super Bowl picks in a minute, and a lifelong comic book fan. Those roles show up in how he leads through mentorship, storytelling, and imagination. At the heart of his work is a belief that restorative and progressive discipline, strong relationships, and honest conversations are how we create systems that are not just equitable, but truly human. On this show, DeAndre invites viewers and listeners to rethink how we respond to harm, strengthen community, and imagine what liberation can look like in practice. DeAndre, thank you so much for being here. And I got more about you. I didn't want to take the whole show with just the lead in. So I'm going to get back into actually the organization in a little bit. But thank you so much for being here. I've been excited about having you. And let me tell you something. As soon as I was conceptualizing this show, and you never know how you're going to impact people when you meet, I was thinking when we have guests on this show, and you're the first guest we've had, we've just been doing our own thing for the first 6 episodes. But this one is like you were on my mind. It's like DeAndre, and I met you in that workshop. A restorative justice workshop in DC, I believe it was a couple years ago. And just sitting in those sessions with you, the input and feedback you had, the resources you were providing, you could just tell this gentleman is plugged in. And so I am so glad you're here. So before we jump in, you're a football coach. You're a football guy. It's funny because Dr. Pat, she is from, she spent time in the Pacific Northwest, so she's a big Seahawks fan. I wish she was here this week to talk about her Seahawks. But who you got this week, sir?
To be honest, I got the Seahawks this week. I do. I love their coach and defense wins Super Bowls, and that defense is woo. That's the me and my dad had this debate all the time. He think Drake May is the best thing since sliced bread. And I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
For me, definitely the Seattle Seahawks. I don't understand how they have the number one run offense, but also have the number one wide receiver and yards leading. So that's a very interesting point right there. It's like number one run offense, but you have the number one wide receiver. I'm like, all right. And him man to man, I just don't think New England has 10 points ain't going to beat Seattle. I just think that they're hitting on every cylinder. And he's a guy that went through the high school. Their head coach went through high school, college, NFL, back to college, back to the NFL. So like he's been around, and he's young and he's innovative. I just think that they're rolling on too many cylinders.
Thank you for that. And I'm going to have to do a shout out because, I'm a Michigan dude. I'm a Detroit guy. And so I'm a Michigan guy. So I was there when Mike McDaniel got his first coordinator job with Jim Harbaugh. And what he did there is like, soon as he got there, that's the first year they went to the college football playoffs. And then brother John pulled it because Jim took him from the Ravens.
Yeah.
Went to Michigan, and then John saw what he did and took him back. So we'll talk more football later. We're going to change the world a different way right now. So let me just talk a little bit more about some of the information you sent me about your organization, and then I got some questions for you because the work you're doing and your approach to it, I just really respect it. And I reached out to you before for advice on the work we do, but let me get into it. Grounded in the truth that hurt people, but heal people. DeAndre's approach focuses on establishing community culture through community meetings, community building circles, and restorative conversations. His work invites schools and organizations to move beyond compliance and discipline and instead cultivate spaces where young people learn, practice, and ultimately become experts in restorative philosophy themselves, fostering ownership, belonging, and shared responsibility within their communities. Together, this is quoting DeAndre, we can explore essential questions at the heart of spiritual and restorative justice. Where when harm occurs, how do we promote both healing and accountability? What community are we restoring our students back to? And how do we remove the barriers within ourselves and within systems that prevent true connection and growth? DeAndre reminds us that liberation is not just personal, it's collective. And that when we free ourselves, we create the conditions for youth to truly live free as well. Now, let me build on that a little bit. So with spiritual justice and this concept we came up with this show, there's two foundational blocks to it for us. On the one side is the belief that every young person within them has the seed for greatness, for contribution, for stepping into why they were sent here to the planet to be themselves leaders and community builders and contributors to making society better. We believe that is within all young people, and it somehow gets socialized or traumatized or toxicity out of them. And so then on the other side of that spiritual justice foundational piece is those adults, those of us who have been on a path of healing and restoration, and sometimes it's a spiritual path. And we reach the point where there's no place else to go, and people are always looking for that next step to being more peaceful or more enlightenment or more connected or all that stuff. And we believe that next step is actually reaching out and mentoring and connecting with young people. And so I think that resonates with the work you do, and that is why we thought it was a fit for you to be on the show. So let me give you an opportunity, DeAndre. Just tell everybody about your organization and the work that you're doing.
Right. So right now I have my own organization, but I'm also part of the Shipley School. So as the CEO of When the Leaves, that is really for me to be able to expand out and help other people. I really created that organization because I realized after my first time experiencing NACRJ that other people are thinking about the same work that I'm thinking about it. And it's a little bit of politics being able to be part of an institution and trying to help people. Then financially things kick in, and for me, me and you had our first conversation. It was like, nah, I don't need to get paid. I just want to share the work, right? This work is not for me to own. This is for everybody. I'm just the messenger of the work. So being able to create my organization, also that organization ties into my youth football organization, so it's kind of all wrapped up into one there. And then what I'm doing at the Shipley School right now is trying to show a different understanding of relationships, being able to say, hey, if we cultivate relationships at the central level, meaning I can be in the room with you and have an honest dialogue with you and still have unconditional love, that it can like water, right? It can ricochet through and everyone can be able to sense that. Hopefully that other independent schools pick it up and see what I'm trying to establish. The Shipley School has allowed me to create a guidebook in this work, so that we have systematized it. So it's in advisory, it's in homeroom, it's inside our discipline, it's inside our community building. So being able to see the work flourish and to go out into the world from something that started off as a thought in my mind, and then being able to learn more about this work under Josh Staub, and just to see it just marinate and people pick it up. Like, the goal was to plant the seed, and I would never expect the tree to grow this fast, but I think in a time where the world needs someone to be a voice of reason and healing, that this is the perfect time.
That is fantastic. I want to just reflect back and elevate the type of individual that DeAndre is. So I met him at the conference in DC, and again, was so taken by him that I wanted to reach out. So we got information, we exchanged some information. And at the time, we were starting our implementation with Canyon City Schools, which thank you for your help. We're now into our second year into that, almost completing our second year, and it's going fantastic. And so the advice and guidance you gave us was just golden, and we appreciate it. And this is DeAndre. DeAndre's like, look, man, I'm on the East Coast, but if you need me, just call me and I'll fly out. I'm like, what? Who is this guy? I mean, and he's like, no, we're not going to charge. We just want to get to work. It's like this young man is real, right? And what the planet needs with everything that's going on in our country and the world right now, we need more individuals just willing to reach out a hand and help, like DeAndre's doing, and the wonderful work he's doing. DeAndre, do me a favor. Tell everybody how they can reach you if they want to get a hold of you and do some work with you.
Yeah, everyone can reach me at DeAuntra, DeAuntra at whentheleaves.org. It's all together. Again, it's DeAuntra at whentheleaves.org. We're gonna get into what the leaves mean a little bit later, so that's heavy to my heart. And they can follow me at Smith the Educator on Instagram.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And so this is Eric Lee. I am with DeAndre Smith, CEO of When the Leaves. And you can reach me at eric.lee@fullcirclerj.org. Now, that was a perfect segue because that was one of my questions. Tell us about When the Leaves and what that means and what the significance of it is.
So it's after my late great grandmother, Clarice Colby. When we talk about spiritual woman, a devoted Seventh-day Adventist, a woman that at her funeral, hundreds of people were there, to a point where it was overflowing in the church. Her community impact was something that was unspeakable. A God-fearing woman that you just had to meet her to understand. She got a chance to hold my son, and she was in her 90s when she passed away, I believe 98. And she got a chance to hold my son, hold my niece. And the way that she took care of the community, actually was the first person to teach me how to read and write. I was a little bit behind. I was dyslexic, and she figured it out and started to navigate how to teach me how to write and read. And she actually had the notebook still in her house, so when we went down to visit, she could show my kids. So it's something that was is special to me. But she always had this saying that when the leaves are moving, you're driving too fast, and that was about us being able to stop and see everybody for who they are, acknowledge them, have a conversation with them. Also, I have a tattoo behind my ear. And it's a great white oak tree. And inside her front yard, there was a great white oak tree. And we used to sit underneath of it while she used to read Bible stories to us, sing spiritual hymns with us. We used to go pick strawberries and berries and just have conversations where I remember sitting on her lap and just talking to her about life. Really remarkable. I remember the one time at Thanksgiving, we were talking about what we thankful for, and she said that she was thankful for me and seeing how successful I was becoming and the man that I turned into. So it was something that and she finished it with that quote. So it was something that I wanted to honor her with.
That is beautiful. She sounds like a wonderful, wonderful woman, and she should be commended both for who she was in the community and once again for creating the man that she created. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with us, DeAndre. So let's get into something a little bit here. We touched on something and looking at the work you do and looking at your philosophical approach and one of the programs you talked about, and I'm going to open it up for you to talk about that in a little bit later. But one of the things that we believe, and I'm going to just talk about my spiritual path and my path to success a little bit. And so I have walked a path to success and overcome a lot of some of the same things with the youth that we work with, right? You know, my parents into drugs, toxic environment, violence, gangs, killing all around me, going up, right? And so there was these messages that I was given growing up, and I was talking to somebody in my community now who is white, and telling them about my upbringing and how in the 60s, you know, looking back, I was raised as a second class citizens because my parents, deep in their being, believed they were second class citizens because of their experiences, right? And so overcoming that, and it's taken work. I mean, I've gotten in trouble. I've been in the darkness. I've been in places, and I've talked about in previous shows, drug addiction and just going off the rails, right? And then healing from that, right? And then being committed to healing my family and my children who come after me so that it's generational healing that takes place. And how that is for me part of a spiritual journey and a spiritual quest and a spiritual realization where there was a moment where I realized, no, I am not a second class citizen. I am a child of God. And as a child of God, I am part of it. And as that, what can stop me? Right? What can stop me if that is my true identity? And after being able to take that on, my life took off, right? And then I wanted to share it. And so then we get into places like we're in our culture right now, where there's this struggle and this tussle between races, right? There's brown people and black people and then white people, and white people feel threatened about, you know, replacement theory and all this stuff. And there's DEI, and they don't want DEI. And so for me, it's a tightrope walk between, yes, there's oppressive systems that are holding people down and keeping them from their greatness and just, you know, fairness, right? And fair opportunities. While at the same time, here's the tightrope. On the other side, the recognition of you can't stop me because I am a child of God, right? And so you got to walk that. You can't go all the way. We need help. We need a hand up. We need opportunities when we know we are the baddest dude walking because that is our divine inheritance, right? So that's a tight walk that we have to walk. And so in the work that I'm doing and what we're trying to accomplish with youth is to get them to realize that same thing that I did, that your original inheritance, who you really are at your core, is a being you can't even imagine. And when you do, you too will become unstoppable young man or young woman. And so, DeAndre, with that, you talked to me about a program that you guys just instituted about blackness as joy instead of toxicity. Did I get that correct?
Yeah, we just developed a course for it in a way that we've been doing our work um at my institution right now. It's about joy with inside the struggle. Um, we just had our Black History Month assembly actually yesterday. But my approach is, and this is going to sound very interesting. So my approach is that Black love is the blueprint to love. And what I mean by that is that when we think about even this country often does not love us, but we tend to love this country. We have people who go and join the military, who go and do this, who find ways to love the country, even though the country doesn't love us. I think about James Baldwin, I think about Fred Hampton, and say, hey, like, yes, I'm American, but what is my purpose of being an American? And I think that my understanding of Black joy is actually Black love in the conversation, right? There is no condition to my love. I'm going to be kind to you, but I'm also going to hold you accountable. And I think that that's where people struggle at, is because I can see something happening and give you the same amount of love I give someone else, but also hold you accountable. Accountability looks like a threat when it never been happened before to you. And that's when we get those systems like, oh, the system is oppressive system. And then I try to hold someone accountable. They're like, oh, it's the replacement theory. Is this. It's like, no, I'm here because you have a blind spot. I love you enough that I'm going to engage in these conversations. I'm not going to write you off, right? If I write you off, you're going to do more, you're going to do more harm. And I think about my religion background, like if Jesus would have wrote people off, where would we have been at? Right? There's a quote in inside the Bible that says that Jesus stopped a legion of armies, even though he was being crucified. Like that's powerful. That he loved us so much that he stopped what was it, four legions of armies coming to wipe us out. Like, whoa, like love has no divinity, and love is the ultimate goal.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you brought up that word. And, for me, when I first trained as a restorative justice facilitator, one of the things that really struck me and made me gravitate to it was accountability and responsibility. And that being, again, a cornerstone of what makes it work. And one of the things that I realized, and especially as it related to me working with youth at the time, was people a lot of time take responsibility or accountability, and it's a bad word.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little scary and frightening for some people. And then what they neglect to get out of it, that if you flip over that coin, you can also define that word as self-empowerment.
Yes.
Because as soon as you can take responsibility for it, you can change it. And if you can change it, then you have power over it. And that is one of the things that is part of our work in changing, our community, and thus hopefully changing, having it spread. Like hopefully, there's people doing work on the West Coast. There's us in the Rocky Mountain region in the middle of the country, and we got DeAndre on the East. Hopefully we can spread this like a positive, joyful virus. And everybody in the country, in this society, can take that on, because we are sorely missing the beauty of it, because the norm so goes against taking responsibility because everybody's trying to get out of trouble. Talk a little bit about that. Just take a couple minutes. We're coming up on break here in the next 3 or 4 minutes. So talk a little bit about your take on that for me, DeAndre.
So I love that you asked that question, because for me, I believe that 80% of this work is looking inwards. And what I mean by that is it's a mirror. You got to hold yourself up to a mirror, and you can't light switch this work. I tell people it's not an on and off. Like I can't choose to be restorative at work and then not be restorative with my kids. I can't choose to see something, some injustice in the store and not say something about it. Like, ooh, that doesn't feel right. Right. For me, this work in its essence is mirror work, but also looking inwards. If I can hold myself accountable, and that's the hardest thing to do, so hold yourself accountable. It's to live what you're preaching. For me, it's all about modeling. If I'm going to be restorative, I have to be restorative all the time. And I tell people all the time, my biggest test to me being restorative is my 7-year-old son. That is the biggest test in my life, because I want to be a restorative father. I also want him to grow up as a man where he can test boundaries, push back, have that mirror work. But unfortunately, I'm the first person he tests that on, so I have to be restorative in my conversations. And I overlove him so much that me having a conversation saying I'm disappointed, that's the goal. The goal is to be like, I'm disappointed in that choice. I'm not mad at you. I'm disappointed in you. So that the person is looking into the mirror and saying, man, like, how do I reflect that I'm harming the community, and what resources and what support do I need so that I don't have this happen again? That's the hard part. That part in itself is to get everyone on the same page of how are we actually doing the mirror work. It's easier to build bridges that lead to nowhere. I can build that bridge, but I can also build a bridge that is going to take me to an area where, oh, I'm here. Now I'm coming face to that mirror. Now I can be able to adjust, move, and learn. I often try to ask people, especially in the school systems, if we're in the institution where we're supposed to be educating, isn't it our purpose to allow the child to mess up and then to educate them and give them the accountability so it doesn't happen again? It's the only place that they can reset and try again tomorrow, right? That's the accountability part. It's like, okay, how many times do I need to hold the mirror up to this child? Keyword, child. I often think even if that kid is 18, I know what I was doing at 18. I can tell you, I still was thinking like a child. Like, hold the mirror up to myself. Often I think, how about we put both of us in the mirror and I can be like, okay, so I'm going to hold myself accountable so that I can help you hold yourself accountable. So a lot of this work for me is to go, my spiritual understanding of this work is to be a leader, but I often think about the story of Moses. The one time he didn't look in the mirror, he didn't get into the kingdom, right? Being able to look into the mirror and see, like, I'm here, this is my purpose. How do I engage in that work?
Right. Thank you. You know what? We're twins. You know, we were split at birth. I don't know how we got split. You know, we're going to go to break now. Before we go, again, tell everybody again how to get a hold of you. We're going to take a break and we're going to come back and pick up where we left off.
Everyone can find me at Smith the Educator on Instagram or by via email. It's DeAndre at whentheleaves.org.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you in a few.
What if your training isn't enough? The Multicultural Mindset Podcast invites counselors and therapists to unlearn the one-size-fits-all approach. This isn't cultural competence. It's a way of being that brings racialized experiences from the margins to the very center of care. Let's stop pathologizing Black pain and start challenging the system that created the bias in the first place. Visit newseasons.training to subscribe.
Festa della Donna with Esther Graham honors all women far beyond a single day of celebration. Regardless of your race, gender, sexual orientation, or religion, Esther helps you rise to your full potential to live fully in God's plan and to do what you were divinely created to do. Festa della Donna offers programs that help you fulfill your dreams and desires. For more information and to get your free copy of the Festa della Donna Retreat Self-Care Guide, visit fdbwomen.com.
Are you passionate about impacting social change or working towards anti-racism as a society? Are you willing to deconstruct your innermost thoughts, ideas, and beliefs about racism? Then Inflection Point Podcast, Cultivating Change from the Inside Out, is the show for you. Join Anita Russell, Mavis Bauman, and Gail Hunter in open, honest, and deliberate conversations every first and third Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, only on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Spiritual Justice Show. I am your host, Eric S. Lee. You can reach me at eric.lee@fullcirclerj.org if you want to do some work with us. We are having a wonderful conversation with DeAndre Smith, CEO of When the Leaves Restorative Consulting. Welcome back, DeAndre, and thanks again for being here. And I want to pick up a little bit where we left off, and you talked about that mirror last time and how it's about self-reflection. And I said we were twins when we left because that is one of the things that I have been saying. Self-reflection may be one of the most important aspects that people can develop. And it's one of the things that I love about restorative work with young people because you immediately start teaching that to them. It becomes part of their psyche, especially when they have gotten into trouble. It's okay that you've gotten in trouble. Now it's time for you to accept responsibility for that. And then, look at who you've harmed and also look at, like you said before, hurt people, but heal people. Look at how you were harmed and how that might have contributed to the mindset within you that made you think it was okay to harm somebody in the first place, right? And so then the young people are on a path, right? They're on a path that is guided by self-reflection. And so one of the other things we do at Full Circle Restorative Justice is we do community trainings, we do organizational trainings, and we do that work. And our introductory restorative justice training is called Building a Restorative Mindset. And DeAndre, I mean, you're an expert in restorative justice. You know the processes, you know the procedures, you know how all the stuff, right? So we do a 4-hour training on building a restorative justice mindset, and it's nothing about process or procedure. We don't even want you to go there because we want you to build that mindset and that self-reflective mode so that you can color. And I say we're twins too, because, I start my talk and my training with, look, it's no use in me being a restorative justice practitioner and leading a restorative justice organization if this organization can't be restorative, and if I can't be restorative with my wife, my kids, the dog, the people down the street, the dude that just cut me off in traffic. If I can't be there, then what the heck am I doing this work for, right? And so that's where we're aligned, and it's possibly, as I go deeper and talk to more people, maybe it's just all of us. maybe it's just something that gets trained into us, or maybe it's some of us, but it's really, really important, because I have seen restorative facilitators and restorative justice professionals who that is not the focus as much. The focus is on how this process and this procedure is going to fix things. And again, I read this book called The 4 Pivots by Sean Ginwright, and it highly recommend it. And one of the quotes that sticks with me from that book is, when dealing with community transformation, the wrong first question is, what do we need to do? The right first question is, who do we need to become? Right? And so that's the whole deal. And that's where we want to live first and build that foundation. So do me a favor, talk a little bit more about the effects and the impacts that maybe you have noticed with young people as you've done this work with them.
Well, but yes. And you said something earlier that really, I'm like, oh, like I'm really drawn to that, to what you said, and about some practitioners who don't really live that. And I would say it's because they're still working with their harm. They're listening with their trauma and not with their restorative ears. And to jump into that with our students, I think about my own work. And a quick story is, when I was first into this work, I was going, like I was really into this work. Like I was learning from people, I was going places. And then to go deep, I lost my brother, right? My brother was not that much younger than me. And I knew all the knowledge. I knew all the systems. I thought I had it all. And then the person closest to me was harmed, and I didn't know it. And then the ultimate thing happened where now he's at rest. So it made me reflect on, I know the systems, I know the information, but how am I applying the knowledge to others so that I'm healing, but also modeling how for them to heal? That's the ultimate goal in the conversation, that what you're saying is with our students is, everyone, you can say that you have a perfect life, and there is something that is bothering you, and there's something that is happening that might not be always as deep, but it's something that I can be irritated that one day, and then I say something that's harmful to that one person. It has nothing to do with you, right? I could be anxious about a test happening, and then my friends are overstimulating me, and then I say something harmful, right? There are always moments where you might not understand, but then the applied harm is happening. So we have to always be mindful that when harm is happening, how do I address it? How do I reflect? And how do I create not just a system, but this becomes a way of life for me to acknowledge that even if I harm someone in the moment and I reflect on it, the next day or within an hour, I'm gonna go and find that person and be like, hey, I'm sorry. That it didn't register right. Even if someone comes to me, and especially with students, if you can acknowledge that you did some harm to them, it goes a long way in the future with them.
Yeah, that is that modeling, and thank you for sharing that. And it's funny for me because I bring this up all the time, and it's like, okay, we're both husbands here, right? And we're both fathers, right? And so I've got a wife who understands, and again, it's like this is who I am, right? It's like I try to be a good guy, right? It's like, and I'm human, and I jack stuff up sometimes, right? So I got to be big enough to come and say, okay, my bad, I'm sorry. And I tell people about when it starts with being restored of human first, and I say to them kind of humorously, and my wife agrees with me 100%. It's like I step out of line. It's like, okay, Mr. Restorative Justice. It's like, and you probably you may not get the same exact thing,
Oh no, I get
but
the same exact thing.
there's a different standard that you have to kind of stay living within, and it's beautiful, right? And at the same time, when I hear my wife talking to other people, and she's talking about either our relationship or her stepping out of bounds, and her saying, "Yeah," and my husband is one of the most understanding and forgiving people. In part because it's his nature, and in other parts because he's trained to do it. It really is heartwarming. And then, the biggest compliment that I may have ever gotten was from my daughter. And I don't know if you know this, but my daughter, who's 32 now, was the one who recruited me to restorative justice work. She's an independent restorative justice facilitator as well. And she saw my leadership background and my coaching ability and all that, and kind of recruited me in because she saw as a fit. And so there was a point where she said, "Dad, one of the best things you ever done in your life was healed your trauma and pain, so that you didn't give it to us." And that was everything, right? And so talk to us a little bit more about the self accountability that we have as adults, and either the responsibility that we have, or just the opportunity that we have to share that with young people. Because here we are in spiritual justice, one of the things we want to do is we want to promote this whole community concept of helping our youth and engaging. How do we as adults take better accountability and be more active in supporting our young people moving forward?
Well, I would say that right now, I'm thinking about a couple of different things. Like I'm thinking about post-traumatic slave syndrome. Like that's one of the first things I think about is like why do we treat each other generationally a certain way, right? Is that because of protection? Is that because of generational trauma happening? Um, I know that like looking at the statistics and the data, I know there's a little bit of data here around it, but to prove is we know that if your generation before you has trauma and never healed from it, that it's passed on. And then if we don't address that, then it's passed on again. I think the best thing that's happening to me right now is that my parents are engaged in their therapy and inside their understanding, because having me at 17 and 18, that's a trauma response. Right? Like and I think inside the Black community, we're finally starting to get to a point where we can acknowledge that's a trauma response, right? So even me, like I had my son at 25, and a lot of people thought that was kind of young, and I'm like, ooh, like I don't think that's a trauma response, but it is. I always wanted to be a father. That's one thing that for me is like central to my life is I wanted to raise my children um in a manner that was different than I was raised, right? Like my upbringing is who made me, right? The challenges and the stipulations around that is what made me who I am. But how do I produce my sons without the trauma so that they can take on the things that I have inherent the good things about that, right? Like my grandmother Eleanor, her love for her kids and her grandkids is unconditional. Like she loves so hard that sometimes you're like, whoa, like hold on, like I need you to back up for a second and let me kind of make the mistakes so I can grow from them. And I think about that with my students is allowing them to give. Like I like to think as myself, I don't like to say I'm a teacher, I'm an educator and an elder. give the advice, allow them to navigate it, give them the options like this is the option I think that you can navigate, and this is the option that you can take, right? But just know that both options are going to put you in some conflict. I think we need to realize that productive conflict is okay. To have them go in there and say, hey, like this is a problem for me. How do I navigate this? Okay, let's engage in that conflict. We're good. Let's engage in that. But also, I don't know if that's the right word, but giving kids a safety net to be like, here's the boundary, and you can kind of play with that and be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go here. Like even with my son, sometimes if on inside the football field, he might like I might yell at him, he might yell back. I'm like, whoa, hold on, calm back. We in the heat of the moment. Let's have a conversation after practice about why that's not inappropriate between those two conversations, right? Like there's a lot of things that as educators and elders, we have to be able to give them leadership and allow them to mess up and then learn from it. Because how are we passing that knowledge and that wisdom down to the next generation if we're not giving them opportunities to lead? No one got an opportunity to lead without failing. Failing for me feels like productive conflict. Just get back up and let's try it again.
Right. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. DeAndre, we're gonna get into some questions that you gave to us, and they're important. And how about telling people how, and the question is, how can I support, if you're a listener or a viewer, how can I support the work with DeAndre? How can tell people how they can support the work with you?
For me, it's I think being able to reach out and see me as someone that's a connector, someone that is ethical, someone that has integrity in the work. If you want to get this work done, reach out. Like we sometimes I feel like, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think sometimes as someone that's an expert in the work, we like to try to own everything. When like, hold on, like there are multiple other people that are expert and better than me at the work that I can reach out to and be like, hey, I need support. My two mentors, I reach out to them at least twice a week. At least twice a week, and be like, hey, I don't understand this right now. Please walk me through this. And that is okay, because then that means that the integrity in the work is being done well.
So it's almost like you're inviting people to both reach out and work with you and just query to see how you can support. And it also seems like a call for more forums, like maybe not necessarily like this, but places where we can gather and just bounce ideas off of each other and grow and learn and set standards together on what's best.
Yeah, I think for us as practitioners or people who want to learn how to be practitioners, what is, like we talk about systems, what is number one? I think sometimes each system has, like, if we're thinking about progressive restorative discipline, that's kind of the first thing that we're thinking about, or we're thinking about community building, because you can't do one without the other. So like, what is the baseline that all of us want to work from?
Great. Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that. And then here, and before we go on, give them one more time. We want to make sure nobody's lost on, they love DeAndre. How do they get a hold of you?
Yes, so on Instagram, Smith the Educator, or via email is DeAndre@whentheleaves.org.
Okay, great. So the next question, who can I connect with so that this work is being uplifted nationally? Talk about that question a little bit and how you want viewers to take that on. Yeah,
so for me, I'm always at a national, international, whatever level that I can get to, that I can be supportive and someone can support me. I think NACRJ is a great networking one, so that we're always constantly sharing information. But for me, I teach the process that is best until I know better. If I can find a better process, I will educate myself on that and teach a better process. So for me, it's always like, what are you doing well, and how can I recreate that so that our students and families are becoming educated too? So it's always a call out to, if you have a better process, please share it with me.
That's great. I'm on a quest. And I can't remember if I talked to you about this or not, but it is a couple things that guide me. One is Dr. King's words. And when I got involved with the restorative justice work and I saw it in the court system and I saw what a difference it was making in the judicial system, in a different way. And one of the reasons was back to that accountability piece and teaching that at a very young age. And so that people could use that as the baseline on how they were moving forward and getting further help for themselves so they can heal and learn and grow and heal some more and become whole humans, and then really find who they were as human and what their contributions were. I just saw it as a way. And then I started doing work in schools, and it was like, okay, this is going to prevent them from even getting into that judicial work that I was doing. So we need to be tying these things together. So our organization does those jointly, as well as the community work. We've got 3 pillars. And back to Dr. King's words is like, so seeing that system and seeing the development of that system work and seeing individuals like you doing that work, I was like, I have seen the mountaintop. I may not get there with you, but I have seen the mountaintop. And so if we can just keep this going,
Yes.
I know that we're creating a better way. And then the other thing is, it's a quote by a scientist, right? And it's like, the scientist is Buckminster Fuller. And he said, you don't change a thing by fighting against it. You change a thing by creating a system that renders that old thing obsolete. And so that kind of works off what you're saying about we need to be reaching out. We need to be continually tweaking the system to make it better and stronger and more efficient and the right system, so that when we're done with it, you can't look at the current school system. You can't look at the current judicial system and say, this is better than that. It's like comparing a horse and buggy to a C8 Corvette. No, we're taking the C8 Corvette here now because we can't do that anymore.
Also, I love that too, but in the system, the number one thing that people have to remember too is keep the heart in the system. That is always the base of it. It's like, what is the heart in these systems? Because sometimes the system get the rolling and then we forget the heart piece, and then that's how it becomes process. And I'm like, man, let's remember that like if people want to do spiritual work, you got to do heart work in the process. And I love let's go. Like for me, it gets me excited to be like, hey, I know that I'm not fighting the battle by myself. I got hundreds of people out there that's ready to fight with me.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say and add to what you said about keep the heart in the system is, as I see it, it is a heart-based system.
Yes.
And so it's going to be there. I mean, it's just how we, it's like what I talk to people about is like, and you may push it, you're a little bit further ahead with implementation in schools than I am. But one of the things that I talk about is how we need to keep it going and keep working this system to create humans. And the challenge always is, okay, I want you guys to be restorative, but we don't have time to do that. We don't have time for circles every day. We don't have time. It's like, you want us to change the system, but you ain't got no time, right? No, we need to create the system. You know what? Yeah, you got content, you got mathematics, you got language arts, you got social study, you got all those things, you got all that content that is important, but we feel that's most important is creating humans.
Yes.
And teaching young people how to be humans and humanity first. And once we do that, then the content. but they got it backwards. And again, it's like, I respect that that's what I'm dealing with, and I'm going to just keep slithering in there and making sure that we are connected. But it's like that is the point that you just brought up a little bit.
I wish we had like hours to talk, because we could keep going about this.
We will.
The one thing that I think about too, what you just said, is bringing all of it together. So I was thinking about what you said earlier with Dr. King, and as one of the pillars in that thought process. I'm actually in a phase now where I am blending Dr. King's understanding with Fred Hampton's understanding that we need everybody together to change this system, and we can't do it by ourselves, but also we got to work in a space where we are pushing against the oppressor in and in a way that brings that unconditional love. So I'm kind of in a phase right now where I'm bouncing and trying to intertwine both of those conversations.
That's great. So you just brought something up. Yeah, one, when we get off, we're going to stay connected. Again,
Yes.
I'm going to be more committed to connect with you even more that we've talked again. And promise me you'll come up and do a follow-up, because we talked about something and a spirituality class that you are launching in the fall with young people. And I'm interested to follow up and see how that goes. So, DeAndre, we're going to have at least one more conversation on the show, and then I'm going to commit to just reaching out. You may be my mentor, where I'm going to be bothering you, sir. I'm going to be that guy
Never a
calling you
bother.
calling you twice a week, like you say you do your mentors. So,
Yes.
yeah, again, last time, tell everybody how to connect with you, and with that, give us one last thing that you'd like to leave our viewers with to think about as we move forward.
Absolutely. So Smith the Educator on IG, and then DeAndre at whentheleaves.org. And one thing that I'm going to give, I'm going to go back and I'm going to refer to my great grandmother, Clarice Colby, and I'm going to leave the quote with, "If the leaves are moving, you're driving too fast." Please take the time to see everyone and understand everyone, because you never know that 30 seconds can change someone's life.
DeAndre, thank you so much. This has been my favorite show thus far. Thank you. We'll have you back. Everybody, thanks for joining us. This is Eric Lee signing off from the Spiritual Justice Show. If you want to get a hold of me, eric.lee@fullcirclerj.org. And hey, stay connected. Keep working, keep growing on yourself. And when you get there, you think that you can't go any further, or you don't know what the next step is. Maybe that next step is being a trusted adult for a young person.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Thank you for joining me, Eric S. Lee, on the Spiritual Justice Show. You've heard me say it before. Restorative justice alone can't get us there. Repairing a wound matters, but if the system keeps cutting, the wounds return. Social justice fights for equity, but if we forget the human spirit, policy feels hollow. Transformative justice shifts culture, but without compassion, the changes just don't last. That's why spiritual justice completes the circle. It heals the heart while changing the system. It restores dignity while shifting culture. It brings spirit back into justice. And that's where you come in. Tune in each first and third Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time on the Transformation Network as we rise up, spiritual justice warriors. This means you choosing courage, compassion, and creativity in a call to action. Until next time, walk with courage, lead with compassion, live with spirit, because justice begins here in the soul, and it continues with warriors like us. Join our community at spiritualjustice.net.